Hello everyone and welcome to another video. A few videos ago we looked at this Alter Art IOD Degen and its unusually small grip and hilt. One thing I noticed and it kind of bothered me while filming, I kind of had forgotten about it over time, but is that this shell guard is super loose and wobbly, even though the rest of the sword is really firm. So it's just an issue of the shell guard. So I thought I'd kind of take advantage of that to fix it. I'll try and shim and put a leather washer or something here to fill in that gap. But I'll also take advantage of that to show you how this sword is disassembled and reassembled. So as I mentioned in the previous video, this sword can easily be taken apart by simply unscrewing this threaded pommel cap ending, and it just comes apart. So while I'll be trying to fix this issue that is really annoying me, we'll also look into the individual pieces that make up this sword and see if there's any interesting information under the hood of this IOD. So without further talking, let's get to work. Okay, this is truly an easy sword to take apart. Let's get started. So the core of core piece of this sword, I suppose, is this end cap. This keeps everything in place. If you just unscrew it, you'll see there's a it's threaded. And once that comes off, the whole sword can be taken apart. So let's take a look at the threads in more detail here. There you go. So it's a brass cap. Put it there. This enables us to remove the knuckle guard from the pommel, and the pommel just slides off in one piece. You can see the threaded tang. Once you take the pommel off, this may require a little bit of work, there we go, but you can slide the grip off. And I'll just show you, because I think it's very funny, this is how big the grip actually is on this sword. If I close my hand, the grip practically disappears. So yeah, a very small hand. It was designed for a very small hand. Next, the knuckle guard and quillin come off in one piece. And the last piece is the shell guard. Oh, there we go. So let's see if there's any interesting information for us under the hood. So we have this circle mark. I'm not sure what that exactly is. What I find though very lovely is that you can see, recently there's been a lot of debate on perfect weapons and stuff from the Middle Ages. But this kind of confirms Todd Workshop's video about time being of the essence. So if it wasn't relevant to if it wasn't made to be seen or anything, it was a little bit rough. So we can see a lot of marks here on the tang. One interesting thing I think is here we see a mark. It's a 6, a Roman numeral 6. So you see the V and the I there. And this will see it repeated in the shell guard, where we have again a 6 here. And we also see it in the knuckle bow, where we have a 6. So what this tells me is that obviously the sword was all designed to be one piece. Which actually adds, I think, value or a bit of weight to the idea that it might be a custom job, because I don't think for run-of-the-mill swords they'd be marking each and every one so that each piece matched. So the fact that this one, all the core pieces of the sword are marked to match, makes me think that this was a custom job and they needed to make sure that each piece went with its partners. I have not been able to see if there's a 6 mark on the pommel. So let's discover that together. I don't see any though, but I wouldn't be surprised because the pommel is mostly visible. There aren't really any hidden parts to it, so yeah. And there we go. Now, I cut a little piece of leather with a slot, and what I'm hoping to do is to be able to stop the, so let's put it back in place. What I'm hoping to do is to be able to stop it from wiggling by adding this little bit of extra padding. It's way too thick, I think. So we'll just see if it sticks in there. Oh, another interesting aspect is, again, in terms of workmanship, is that look how shoddy the work on the edge here of the knuckle guard is. But once you assemble it, that part becomes invisible because it's, no, this is not going to work. Way too thick. I'll be back in just one moment. Okay, so I've cut this down to the absolute minimum. It's just a little piece of leather with a slot cut through it. But what I wanted to show you about when I was mentioning the shoddy work here, again, referring to Todd's workshop video. Yeah, this would probably, if you saw this as a separate piece on a modern sword, you would be like, no, this is unacceptable craftsmanship, especially on this side. But what does it matter when once the sword is assembled, that part is not visible anymore? So yeah. Okay, let's get back to assembling. So there we go. We add our little leather washer here, which now I measured, so it should fit snugly inside the guard here. Well, I was not well. Snugly is, yeah, accurate. Knuckle guard. Then you need to push the whole thing in place, I've seen, because otherwise it doesn't really go in. And now we take the grip. If you're disassembling and reassembling swords, try to make sure you remember which side of everything goes in which direction. So in this case, for example, I noted that this seam was on the outside towards the quillin, so that's how I'm reassembling it. And now we slide the pommel on. Sorry, this is not as easy as it looks to do while filming. So there we go. Now you may be tempted to immediately insert this into the pommel and then screw the cap, but I am not sure that is the best approach, because as you start screwing the cap, this spins the pommel too, and by the time you tighten it, this hole will be misaligned and turned more to the side. So in this case, what I think I'll do is keep the pommel a little misaligned to begin with, so that as we screw it in, yeah, so that as we get to the end of the thread, and the pommel kind of the cap takes the pommel with it, it'll hopefully, yeah, turn into place, into the correct alignment. Yeah, so that is the case now. And there we go. So shell guard is, well, it's still not completely solid, but at least it doesn't rattle that much. As for the pommel, it's still slightly misaligned. So tighten the thread as much as possible. And then there we go. Okay. So the cap now is threaded as far as it can go, but there's still a little bit of play in general, but it's better than before. So there it is. So assembly and disassembly and reassembly of the Alter Art IOD. And that's it, a almost elementary sword to take apart. Now, just because it's easy doesn't mean it should be done recklessly. So this is always an antique, and I just want to stress that with every antique, you should treat it with a certain amount of respect and care. So only disassemble it and take it apart if there's a reason for it. And do not do that as a habit. For example, the thread is made of brass and it's a soft metal, so it'll eventually wear if you overdo it. So yeah, it's just a kind of a disclaimer. Explore your swords, but don't destroy them. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.